Okay, good morning, everyone. We are in Parak Ravi, Hamocheres Habayis. So the Gemara during this Parak, and I believe the next, is going to discuss when you sell certain things, what else is included in the sale. So for instance, if you sell a bias, so is everything in the house included in the sale? What parts of the bias are included in the sale? If you just say, I'm selling you my house, so what exactly does that include? So let's start. We have some nice pictures again today, and I will hold them up as they become applicable. My kids really like this stuff. Okay. Hamocheres habayis. When you sell a house, lo machar yitzia v'afal pi shehi psucha lesocho. So when you sell the bias, you don't sell the yitzia with it. We'll have to see what the yitzia is. Well, we'll see. We'll get to it. It literally means annex, but we'll see what it means. V'lo es hacheder shelifnim himenu. It also does not include the cheder, the storeroom that's in the rear of the house, as Rashi explains, where you keep all your chafatzav, all of your goods and all your items. It's where you store all your stuff, your special stuff. V'lo es hagag, and it doesn't include the roof of the house. Now that's ironic. It doesn't mean that you get the house without the roof. It means the roof, the actual usage of the roof of the house. If it's just a roof and there's no makeh, which seemingly is the halacha, they need to have a makeh, which implies that it's not in use. So then it includes usage of the roof. Obviously, you get the roof literally over your head, but usage of the roof, if there's a makeh, still belongs to the seller, not to the buyer. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, even if there's no makeh, im yesh lo tzuras haPesach, if there's actually a doorway that goes. Tzuras haPesach literally means a doorway. When we talk about like Hilchos Eruvin, that's why when you want to have an Eruv, you don't have a wall, so you make a Tzuras haPesach. You make what's like a doorway. That's why you'll see, well, you won't see it in Toronto because they basically use the railroads and all of the natural walls. But when I was in Queens, for instance, so we used the light poles a lot of times because we had to use going down. You can't build, like imagine using Bathurst to build a Eruv. You can't just put a wall on Bathurst. So what they would do is they would use the pole as one part of the Tzuras haPesach, the doorpost. Then we would put a wire, like a fishing wire or something, across, and then it would go to the next telephone pole, which would be the next Tzuras haPesach. So if you looked at each individual telephone, even though it went all the way down Bathurst, for instance, each individual telephone pole was basically two telephone poles and a thing. Kana mikan v'kana mikan v'kana al gabehan. Okay, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's Tzuras haPesach when it comes to Hilchos Eruvin. So we're talking about a doorway here. So if it has a doorway, al pi she'eino gavoa yutvachim eino machor. And as Rashi explains, and this is our first picture, you see over here when you have a gog, so you could either have a gog with like a trap door, or you could have a gog with an actual opening and a doorway, i.e. a ladder that goes into the gog. What does that show? That shows that it's to be used. So if it's just a trap door, which is just meant for maybe like an emergency, then it's included in the sale. But even if there's no makeh, according to this opinion, if there's a hole and then there's a ladder to get up, and it clearly shows that the owner uses the roof for different purposes, so then that would not be included in a stam sale of a bias. Zok the Gemara. Ma yitzia, what is this annex? Hacha targimo, here in Bavel, they explain that it means a afta. It means a chamber. What's a chamber? So it's, as Rashi says, it's a binyan that's next to the bayis, mitzido u'me'acharav. It's like an extension of the house. It's like another room in the house. So if you look over here in picture number 2, you have the bayis, and you have over here, like on the side, you have the yitzia, which is again what we call, I guess we would call like an annex to the house. It would be another room in the house.
Like your garage.
It could be a garage, but it sounds like, again, it could be, but it sounds like a cheder is more of like the garage. Now, it could be that a cheder literally is like a room in the house, but a yitzia, as we'll see, maybe is a little bit more of something that's used like a house, as the Gemara is going to get to. So maybe you can say that your garage is like a house, but as opposed to a cheder, which is like seemingly very separate from the house, because it's meant dafka to store things, the yitzia would be like possible, like let's say like a sunroom or something, where you use it, you sit, but you can also use it as a bedroom, so it's interchangeable with a house. And we'll see that in a little bit while. Rav Yosef Amar, Bitka Chalila. He says it's not just a regular annex, it's a, as I think he says, a veranda. It's one of these more fancy annexes. Like if you look over here, this guy's house is obviously a little bit nicer, but he has a little bit of a veranda here where it's not just a house, it's got the little windows here. It's like more of like a sunroom. So it's a little bit fancier than a yitzia. So Gemara is going to say, Lemandi Amar Ifta lo mizdavna kol shekain bitka chalila lo mizdavna. The one who says that a yitzia is not included, a regular stam room is not included when you sell a bayis, so for sure the special sunroom is not going to be included when you sell a bayis. Laman Amar Bidka Khalil, the one who says that when you sell a house, so this special veranda, this sunroom is not included. Aval ifta mizdavna, but he would say that a regular extension, another room, would be included. That's the nafkamina between the two. Tani Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says that this room called the yitzia actually has three different names. Shalosh shemos yeshlo, Yatziyat, Sela, and Ta. We're not going to get into the details, but the Gemara is going to bring proofs that all three of these things mean like an annex or a chamber, etc. And it's going to bring proofs. The first proof will be from Shlomo Melech building an annex to store things in the first Beis HaMikdash. And the second two, the Ta and the Tzela, will be proofs from Sukkim that talk about the Nevuah of Yecheskel, which are talking about annexes or chambers to the third and future Beis HaMikdash. Everything okay? The heat's good. You're comfortable.
It's too hot in here.
Good to go. Okay. Zog the Gemara. Tani Rabbi Yosef. Shalosh shemos yeshlo. Yatzia tzela ta. Yatzia dichsiv hayitzia tachtona chamesh ba'amarachba. That's one word for chamber. That's in the first Beis HaMikdash. Shela dichtiv atzlaot tzela el tzela shalosh ushloshim pamim. That's the second word for a chamber. Ta dichtiv v'hata kaneh echad orech v'kaneh echad rocha v'vein hataim chamesh meot. Again, three different sukkim showing that there are three different names for this thing that we're going to call an annex to the house. Or you can prove that a ta is an annex from the following brayso. So where it says kotel ha'echal sheish v'ata sheish kotel hata chamesh, again using the word ta interchangeably with a tza and a tza, and as interchangeably with a tzela and a yitzia. Fine. That's the yitzia. That's the annex to the house, and it's not, as the Gemara says, included in the sale of a house. However, there is an opinion that says that unless it's a sunroom or something of the like, then it is included in the sale of the house. But Zak the Mishnah, in general, pashtus of the Mishnah is that a yitzia, this annex to the house, is not included when I sell you my house. Amar Mar Zutra, and again, what's halacha l'maisa? That's halacha l'maisa is when I sell you a house. Again, halacha l'maisa would be a little bit different, but we were trying to give an example like in the first year. So there are cases where, for instance, again, it's not exactly the same case, but you have a parking spot when you sell your apartment, or there's a storage area to store stuff. So these type of things would be nafkaminas as to whether is that or is that not included in selling the house itself. So this would be something similar. Yitzia, it's again a little bit weird because it's attached to the house, but nothing says that there's no door that goes to the outside, where again you can have the house that you sell them, and now this storage area on the side of the house. So the annex that can be used by you still. Zak the Gemara, Amar Mar Zutra, v'hu dahave arba amos. This yitzia that we're talking about, this annex that we're speaking of, or this sunroom that we're speaking of, it's only not included in the sale if it's a minimum of 4 by 4 amos. But if it's smaller than 4 by 4 amos, then in fact it is included in the sale. Amar le Ravina Lamar Zutra, that's very nice, but that doesn't make sense. Why lididach de amras ad dahave arba amos? If you said that it's included in the sale until it's 4 amos, elameata gabe bor. The end of that Mishnah, which says that a bor is also not included in a sale. Now, what's a bor? A bor is not necessarily the pit in the yard. The Gemara there explains that a bor is that they had a water reservoir in the house. There was something called a bor and something called a dote. The rich people had dotes. Those were the bors that they were lined with bricks. But a regular person had a water reservoir in the house for the water to be used in the house. So when you sell a house, loes habor veloes hadus, av bishakasav lo umka veduma, or viroma. Even if you write in the thing, I'm telling you the depth and the height of the house, it does not include the bore. That's pretty weird. What does that mean, does not include the bore? So again, obviously it could be that you have two bores and you have one water reservoir where you keep water and you want to keep that one for yourself, and another one which the house functions with. But again, as a buyer, you would have, the point is that a buyer's stamp does not include the reservoir. But if you were going to buy the house, you would obviously negotiate to include that as well. But the Gemara says, everything but the kitchen sink. But the Gemara says, hachanami, it doesn't make sense, because you're telling me that when I sell you a bayis, so it only includes a yitzia if the yitzia is less than 4 by 4. But by a bor, you're telling me it doesn't include the bor, which would imply it doesn't include the bor if the bor is 4 by 4 or more. But what's the problem? Almost every bor is less than 4 by 4. So why would I give you an example that when you buy a house, or when you sell a house, it doesn't include a bor? Why would you give me the 1% case that it doesn't include? It doesn't include all the bores. Well, it only doesn't include the bor if the bor is 4 by 4. But almost no bores are 4 by 4. Almost all of them are smaller, so that doesn't make sense. Hachanami havu arba amos in ilolo. No, rather hachi hashta. Hasam hatashmishta lechud v'ha tashmishta l'chud. As Rashi explains that the tashmish is for two different things. When I sell you a house, I'm selling you a living quarters. Again, hard for us to understand how you can buy a house without water. So I don't know the mitzvahs. There might have been another reservoir that was there. There was one to like give water to the house, but again, they didn't have like piping and stuff. So it could just be usually you went out of the house and you got the water. Here he had a special reservoir system that he installed that was for his water. That was, again, if it's in the middle of the house, it's going to be hard for him to come in the middle of your house. But let's say it's right outside the house. So if he has a water reservoir right outside the house, he put money into building that. So at the end of the day, in Lamaisa, maybe it's not included in the house. So the Gemara is saying that it's not included in the house. Why is it not included in the house, even if it's less than 4x4? Because the tashmishta is l'chud. A house is for living in, and a water reservoir is for water. So I'm selling you the house. I'm not selling you the water reservoir. So then what's the problem when I sell you a bayis? And what's the difference with a yatzia? So it says the Gemara, Hacha aidi v'idi chada tashmishtahi. This is where I got the idea that a yatzia is not really a storage room like a cheder. It's that it's one tashmish. A bayis and a yatzia, which is this annex, has one tashmish. You live in it. That's why, since a yatzia is very similar to the house itself, if it's big enough to be considered something chashuv, it's not included with the sale of the house. If it's just small, then it's batel to the house. So it comes out a yitzia. If I sell you my house and I have this annex, if it's a chashuv size, 4x4 amos, it's not included in the sale of the house, and I can do whatever I want with it. I can include it if I want, but stam, if I sell you my house, it's not included. If I have a yitzia that's less than 4x4, this annex that's less than 4x4, when I sell you my house stam, it is included. When I sell you my house, in general, a bore is not included in the house no matter what size it is, because again, a water reservoir is a different tashmish than the actual bayis. Zakta Gemara. Besides for an annex being included sometimes but not included many of the times, so you also have a cheder, shalifnim hemenu. Here's the picture of the cheder. Again, it's not so crazy, but there's a picture just of a house, and inside the back, like in the back of one of the rooms, you just have a cheder in the back with like a door leading. It looks like a closet. So that cheder, which again is a cheder that's meant as a storage room, is not included in the sale of the house. Once you told me that a regular yatzia, which is like a house in the living quarters, is not included once it's 4x4, do you need to tell me that the special storage room is included in the sale of the house? It's obvious that the storage room is not going to be included in the house either. Lo tzricha, says the Gemara, no. Now we're going to get into this whole interesting conversation. The Gemara says no. You need to tell me that the cheder is not included, even if I include it in the dimensions of the deed. What does that mean? So if I have a yitzia here, so again, we said the yitzia is a separate conversation. The yitzia is that if it's 4x4, it's not included. If it's less than 4x4, it is included. Now I have a cheder in my house. So I'm selling you my bayis, right? So what do I say when I say I'm selling you my bayis? Either I can say I'm selling you my bayis, or let's say I have a lot of houses. I'm selling you the house. So what do we usually do? I'm selling you 19 York Hill Boulevard, right? Let's say that they didn't have addresses. So how would they identify the house? So what? Lot number. Let's say they didn't have lot number. So what would you do? I'm selling you the house between Ruvain and Shimon. So there's a house over here, just as an example. Here's a picture that we're dealing with now. You have a bayis. In the back of the bayis is the cheder. So what does the guy say? I'm selling you a house which is bordered by Shimon, Levi, Ruvain, and Yehuda. So what's the chiddush? The chiddush is that even though on the deed, when I wanted to specify which house I'm selling you, I specified the 4 borders, which includes what? Which includes the cheder in the back of my house. Nevertheless, that cheder is not included in the sale, and we assume that the afagav de meitzar le mitzrei abrai. I was just mentioning the other houses, not because I wanted to give you everything within those 4 points, those 4 boundary points. I wanted to include the house in those 4 boundary points. I couldn't really specify the house any other way but by giving you boundary points that everybody's familiar with, so that when we go to court, again, nowadays everything's much more fancy. Lot numbers, sizes, exactly the dimensions of the houses, exactly the dimensions of the lots and everything. And if you go to court, then you'll have all the clear records, and we all have the deeds and everything, and we have whatever those called, the plans, the prints, whatever they're called. The surveys, etc. So you might not have had surveys back then. So over here now, I'm selling you my house. I'm selling you between Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. So the Gemara is saying that the cheder, unless it's specifically included, the cheder where I store my stuff is not included, and I just use those as broad, general boundary points, but I didn't mean to include everything within those boundary points. And that's what we're going to discuss now for a few minutes.
It's like in California where everyone has a back house.
Everyone has a back house. Interesting. Interesting, right. So if I...
Now, everyone...
And now... So now it's included. But if I told you I'm selling you my... It's right. It's basically the same exact thing. Similar. But again, a guest house would be more of like a Yitzia. It would be more like a Yitzia, and it would be not included. For sure, it wouldn't be included if it was 4x4. What's a back house? It's for people...
a bunkie.
It's not meant for us Pasha Torontonians. It's meant for people that are Los Angeles people. Kidder Rav Nachman. Let's give an example of this from Rav Nachman. Again, the Amar of Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua. This is where the pictures are very helpful. So, Rabba Baravua says in the name of Nachman, Hamocher bayis lechavero bebira gedola. What's a bira gedola? We got another picture here. It's having it's sort of like a chatzer. Usually when you have a chatzer, you have separate houses. This is sort of like a chatzer for one house. You have it would be like the common, it would be the most equivalent to like an apartment building, like an outdoor area, sitting area for an apartment building. Like in Yerushalayim, for instance, you have like all those apartment buildings where there's like a big, you don't have them really here, but you have like that big common area in the middle, except in Yerushalayim, it's not like separate apartments. It would be like having like separate apartments, all sharing a common area called the bira. But again, it's not really separate apartment. It's really one guy's house. And they're standing in this room, and he refers to it as bayizeh. So the question is, let's say I own 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses, all opening up into a bira, which is outdoor patio. A courtyard, thank you. In America, we call it a patio. So we say bayizeh over here. I'm standing here, and I'm saying I'm selling you bayizeh. The question is this cheder, and then we could say all these cheders, but is this cheder over here included in bayizeh? Does bayizeh mean all of the houses in this courtyard, or does it just mean the actual apartment that we're standing in right now? Be like the equivalent of saying, again, just as an example, 343 Clark Avenue West, as opposed to saying apartment number XYZ. If I own all the apartments, does that mean I'm selling you all the apartments in the building, or am I just selling you the apartment that we're standing in now? Just again, to bring it a little more lemaisa. And again, in this case, similarly, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda are surrounding this area. So if I say I'm selling you the bayis that's surrounded by Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, am I selling you all of these houses that are surrounded by Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, or do I just mean to sell you the house that we're currently standing in now, the two people, but I'm going to keep all of these for myself? That's the question. Sagt the Gemara, Hamocher bayis lechavero bebira gedola, af api shemetzar lo mitzarim achitzonim, mitzarim herchiv lo. Same thing. When I mention Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, I don't mean to sell you all of those quote-unquote houses or rooms or apartments in this bira. I just mean to sell you the bira, or the house, the room, let's call it, that we're standing in now. Hechidami, what's the case? Elima de karule le bayis ule bira bira, pshita bayis zavin le bira lo zavin le. Now again, the bira is the common area, but when we say I'm selling you the bira, you don't just sell somebody the common area. If I would say the bira, what would that imply? I'm selling you the entire complex. If I say I'm selling you the bias, and I'm only selling you this bias, it means that for all intents and purposes, there's 5 biases, and then a bira. So if I'm selling you the bira, that includes all 5 houses. If I say I'm selling you the bias, it's just this specific one. If I say I'm selling you apartment number 6A, it's only that apartment. If I say I'm selling you 343 Clark Avenue West, I'm selling you all of the apartments in the thing. So he says, what's the case here where we're going to say that when I sell you the bias, and I mention these 4 guys around me, then I'm only selling you this particular room. What's the case? Hey Chidami, if everybody calls a bias and a bira, and I say I'm selling you the bias, pshita bias zavin le bira lo zavin le. Then if everybody calls these things biases and the whole complex a bira, so if I say I'm selling you apartment 6A, obviously I'm selling you apartment 6A, or I'm selling you this bias, obviously I'm selling you this bias. Ela de la bira nami karu la bias. And if you say that bira is also called a bias, that means that if we refer to the entire thing as a bias, so if I say I'm selling you a bias, then I'm selling you the entire thing. Kule zavinle. Lo tzricha diruba karule labayis bias labira bira. Most people call each bias a bias, and most people call the entire complex a bira. V'ekanami dilabira karule bias. But some people call the entire complex as one bias. So when I say I'm selling you a bias, do we talk about the entire complex or just this individual bias? Mao de sema kule zavinle kamash malan. No, if I want to sell you the entire bias, the entire complex, what would I have written? I would have written, I'm selling you the bias, even according to people that say that, again, when some people refer to the entire complex as a bias, I would have written, I would have written, velo shairis bizvini ilan klum, I'm not leaving anything out of this sale, I'm selling you this bias and nothing is being left out of the sale. Since some people call it a bias, call this entire complex a bias, And again, not leaving anything out of the cell. V'lo kasav, I didn't write that. Shema mina shiurei shayr. Again, if you bring it halacha l'maisa, you can think of examples where this would play out. Or if I tell you, some people call it the conservatory. So again, using that as an example, does the conservatory refer to the entire thing? I'm selling you the conservatory. Am I selling you the entire conservatory, assuming I own all the apartments? Am I selling you one apartment in the conservatory? It depends how people refer to apartment in the conservatory. If they refer to one apartment in the conservatory as the conservatory, but they refer to all the apartments as, or they refer to one apartment as an apartment and all the apartments as a conservatory. If I say I'm selling you the conservatory, it's all of them. If I say I'm selling you an apartment, it's one. But let's say some people refer to all of the apartments together as the apartment. Everybody knows the apartment is the conservatory. So again, that's where, the bottom line is that we always go less than more. Unless it's clear that I'm selling you everything, we always sell you the least possible thing to sell you. So I'm selling you a bayis, we don't include the Yetzia, we don't include the Cheder, and I'm selling you this bayis over here, we're including only this bayis and not all of the other Chadarim as well. What?
You don't want to take away from the seller more than you should be.
Yeah, seemingly. Okay, V'amar Rav Nachman Amar Rabba bar Avua. Another case, one more picture. Similar to the case of the Bira. Let's say we have fields over here, and I have 5 fields. And I have 5 fields all touching each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're standing in the middle of the 5. So we're right in the middle. Then I have 4 fields around my 5 fields. I have 4 fields around my middle field. And then on top of me is Levi, Yehuda, Ruvain, and Shimon. And I sell you a field, and I say I'm selling you the field which is between Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. Well, we're standing in the middle field. I have 4 fields around the middle field. And then Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda are here. So when I say I'm selling you the field of Ruvain, I'm selling you the field within Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. Am I selling you all the fields? Or am I selling you just the field that we're standing on? So the Gemara is going to say the same thing. We're just selling you the field that we're standing on unless you usually refer to all of my fields as the field. And then the Gemara is going to ask the obvious question, just jumping ahead, why do you need to teach me the halacha in both the case of the Bira and in the case of the Sada? That's basically the rest of the daf. Hamocher sada lechavero. Good. The Gemara is going to say that. But bika gedoila. If I sell you a sada in a big bika, so again, we're going to refer to all 5 of my fields together as a bika, and we're standing on the middle field, which is the sada. So say I'm selling you my sada, and I'm selling the sada between Levi, Yehuda, Ruvain, and Shimon. Even though all 5 are between Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, you only get the middle one that we're standing on. If we refer to all 5 of my fields together as a bika, as a plane, but we refer to each individual field as a sada, and I say I'm selling you the sada, and we're standing in the middle of sada, obviously I'm not selling you the entire bika, because if I was selling you all 5 fields, I would have said I'm selling you my bika. And if in general we refer to all 5 fields together as my field, and I just for my purposes know that it's 5 different fields, if I say I'm selling you my field, but everybody knows that we call all of my fields together my field, then obviously I'm selling you all 5 fields. Rather, what's the case? Some call each individual field a field and the entire thing together a bika. And some people call all of my fields together a sada. So now it's not clear when I said I'm selling you my sada. Am I selling you one sada or all the sadas? Says the Gemara, you might think when I say I'm selling you my sada, since some people call all 5 of my fields together the sada. If I want to sell you all of them, I would have either, again, in a place where everybody calls it a bika, I would have said bika, but even in a place where they don't call it bika, I would have said I'm selling you my sada, and I'm not excluding anything. Lo shairis bizvina ilan kadmi klum. Literally, I'm not leaving in this sale anything before you. I'm selling everything. Since I didn't write that, velo kasav le shma mina shiurei shari. That means I'm leaving over other things, i.e. the other 4 fields that I am not selling you. Utsricha. You need both cases. The case of, again, the point is the case of the bika and the case of the bias, the bira. In the case of the bias, each room is used separately. What does Rashi say? Bias ubira ein tashmishan shava. Again, what are we referring to? We're trying to figure out, again, if I'm including the bira, i.e. there's the bira, which is the common area, so am I including that in the sale? And does that mean I'm including all of the things? So we're saying the bira, the word bira, which refers to this common area, which might, again, refer to the entire thing, but bira has a different tashmish than the bottom. Each individual house is where we live, and the bira is the common area where we all gather and schmooze and have tea. So, So you might say that, again, when getting into the details, but when you're talking about selling me a bias, so if I say bias and I don't say bira, I obviously only mean the bias. And if I say bira, then I only mean the bira and maybe not all the batim, because again, they have different tashmishim. So I understand that if I say one, I don't necessarily mean the other. But since Sada and Bika over here, whether it's 1 or 5, it's all the same thing. They're all fields. So even if it's called a Bika, maybe when I say Sada, it's included. Aval Bika de kule chada tashmishta hi ema kule zavinle. Therefore, you have to teach me the case of the Bika. So that I understand. Since the Bira and the actual Batim around the Bira have different functions, if you teach me the halacha that in the case of a bias, it doesn't include the Bira and the Bira doesn't include the bias, etc., so I won't know that a sadeh would be the same halacha. I would think that once I say sadeh, I include all of my sadehs because they're all the same function. Therefore, you need to teach me the case of the sadeh. But why can't I just teach me the case of the sadeh? And it'll be obvious that when they have exactly the same function, so then it's not included all of the sadeh. So then for sure, when the bira and the bias are different functions, it's not going to be included. Says Gemara, v'yashmin and bika mishum de lo havale lemimserle. Aval bayis to havale lemimserle v'lo matzerle kule zavinle tzricha. The opposite, there's a svara to say that it would be different by the sadeh, because by a sadeh, how do you measure a sadeh? The only way to point out which sadeh I'm giving you is to tell you Ruvain's is here, Shimon's is here, Levi's is here, and Yehuda's is here. Because, again, how are you going to measure before surveys and stuff? How am I measuring the sadehs and how big and how wide and all this stuff? Again, because the 5 that I quote-unquote have, it's not like I have walls up between the 5. They're just like my markings, like this is one sadeh, this is my other sadeh, this is my sadeh, this is my 5th sadeh. How are you supposed to measure them? So you refer to the sadeh that I'm selling you as between these 4. And again, the Gemara is clearly saying that if I refer to the sadeh between these 4, it still only includes one sadeh unless I specify. But maybe when I say that I'm selling you my bias between Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, what could I have done? It was very easy to take a tape measure and say, this bias is, I'm selling you the one that's 20 by 25 by 30. Or, I'm selling you the one with 2 bathrooms and 3 bedrooms. And not the one with 4 bathrooms and 1 bedroom. Or 1 bathroom and 4 bedrooms. So since it would have been a lot easier to specify by a bias, you might have thought, and it makes sense, 4 bathrooms and 1 bedroom is pretty good. Yeah, I didn't mean it like that. I don't know if you want that one. But Lamai says, since it would have been easier to specify by a bias and you didn't specify, I might have thought that when you say between Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, you're including all of them. Kamash Malan, that we still don't assume that you have to specify by a bias, and when you're including them, you're just including the broad borders. And therefore, Lamaisa, again, based on the rules in the Gemara, you wouldn't necessarily be including all 4 batim, so that's why you need both the case of the bika and the case of the bias. It's beautiful, it's geschmack, when you have these beautiful svaras. Zok the Gemara. Kamanazal Hadar Amar of Mary Braid de Bashmuel. I said in the first word, I don't remember seeing that, where it says Braid de Bashmuel. So I think they quoted that he was an orphan or something. I don't know exactly what it says. What does it say over there?
The father was all the Yid.
Father was not a Yid. That's why he calls him Bashmuel. Interesting. But why does it say Bashmuel? So who's Bashmuel? Who's Shmuel?
Her father.
Oh, her father. Her father. I got it. De Bashmuel. Bar Shilo Mishmei Dabai. Haiman de Mizavni le Midi lechavre. If you're selling something to your friend and you want to make sure that it's clear, Tzarech lemichtale. If you want to sell everything to him, like we said above, Lo Shairis Bizvine Ilan Kan Meklum. Who's that like? Kaman Krav Nachman Amar Rabba Baravu. As we said above, if you want to make sure you're selling everything, or as a buyer, if you want to make sure you're getting everything, say I'm getting everything, and you're not leaving anything back in the sale. Fine. New case. Hahu de Amar le lechavre. Again, trying to figure out what's being included in a sale. If I go ahead and I bought property from Bechia, and now I'm selling you the field of Bechia. So let's say I bought 2 fields from Bechia, from the house of Chia, and now I say to you, I'm selling you the field of Bechia. So am I selling you both fields? Or 1 field? We agreed on a price, and I agree, I sold it to you for $1 million. You're claiming, well, you bought both fields for $1 million. I'm claiming I only sold you 1 field for $1 million. So says the Gemara, I say to you, I'm selling you the ara, the field of Bechia. There were 2 fields that I had bought. When I said ara is singular. When I said I'm selling you the field of Bechia, I sell you the 1 field. Which one do I sell you? So Rashi explains that you get the lesser of the 2. Since we know that I bought them from Bechia, if it's not clear which one of the 2 you bought, I can claim that I sold you the lesser of the 2, and Lamaisa, you have to take the lesser of the 2. That's where it says ara, the lower value, or the smaller one. V'i amar le arasa. Now this is a separate case, not a case of Bechia. A little bit complicated, but not a case of Bechia. Now in general, let's say I say I'm selling you arasa, lands. Stama. If I have a lot of lands, I say I'm selling you my lands. Does that include all my lands? Or does it include some of my lands? My land is your land, yes. Miyud arasa shtayim. So we take the least common denominator, and when I sell you my lands, it means plural, I'm selling you 2 lands. This is, again, halacha l'maaseh comes up. I'm selling you a couple, I'm selling you a few. What does it mean? 2, 3, or more. So I'm saying I'm selling you my lands. It doesn't mean all my lands. It means I'm selling you 2 of my lands. Again, which one? Unclear. Right, seemingly the lowest plural. V'amar le kol arasa. But if I say I'm selling you all my lands, obviously I'm selling you all my lands. Kol arasa de islay. However, libar mi bustani upardisai. When I sell you all my lands, that includes all my lands, but it doesn't include my gardens and my vineyards. V'amar le zihara. I don't know, that's like a word that I'm just not familiar with. But if I give you like this code word called, I'm selling you my zihara, afilu be bustani upardisi, that includes all of my ganos and kramim, all of my gardens and my vineyards. Lebar mi bate ve'avde, that doesn't include my houses or my avadim. V'amar le nechsai afilu bate ve'avde. If I say I'm selling you my nechsai, that includes everything. So Lamaisa, when you give something to somebody, be careful. If you say I'm giving you my nechsai, you're giving him everything. If you say I'm giving him my zihira, means you're giving him all your lands except for your bustini u pardisi, including your bustini u pardisi, and not your bate ve'avde. If you say I'm giving you all my lands, you got to give him everything except for your bustini pardisi bate ve'avde. And if you say I'm selling you my lands, then that's only going to be 2 of your lands. And if I say I'm selling you my land, so then my land would be 1 of your lands. Shkayach everyone. Have a wonderful Shabbos.